Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is the show where we take a huge stack of information, find the most critical facts, and basically hand you the shortcut to being truly well-informed.
And today, we are diving deep into English grammar.
Yes, we are.
We know that the, let's say, traditional approach listing, all 8 parts of speech, the 12 tenses, all the exceptions, it can just make learning English structure feel, well, overwhelming.
It absolutely can, but our mission today is a bit more surgical. We've synthesized chapters 1 through 10 of our source material, which is, essentially the master manual for building sentences.
Right.
We're trying to cut through all that complexity to focus on, say, 9 foundational elements. The bricks and cement you absolutely must master to build any correct, simple English sentence.
And you can think of it this way. English has millions of words, but every single one of them fits into just a few functional categories.
Okay.
We are isolating the ones that do the most vital work, so naming things, making them act, and providing context. If you can nail these functions, you really unlock mastery of the structure.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with, I guess, the fundamentals of naming.
We begin with the noun. It's the simplest concept, but it's the foundation of everything else. A noun is just the name given to anything that can be seen or felt in the world.
Right.
Our source material categorizes them pretty neatly. People like teacher or Kamal, places, Sri Lanka, school, animals, cat, and of course, things like pen or water.
And the structural consequence of naming is capitalization, which is actually where a lot of initial mistakes happen. You have your common nouns, a general class, like boy or city, and then you have proper nouns, which are the specific names, Kamal, Colombo, Toyota.
And the essential rule here is, well, it's non-negotiable. Proper nouns must always start with a capital letter.
Always.
Even if they pop up in the middle of a sentence. It's a key structural signal to the reader. Common nouns, on the other hand, they only get capitalized if they start the sentence.
Okay, so once we've introduced the actor, let's say Kamal, we get tired of repeating that name pretty quickly.
Exactly, so we substitute it, and that's the job of the pronoun. The stand-in.
Its purpose is just pure efficiency. It replaces nouns to avoid that clunky repetition. Instead of Kamal went home, Kamal ate rice, you just use a pronoun like he.
Right.
The source gives us this crucial list of the 7 subject pronouns, the ones that handle the actor role. I, you, we, they, he, she, and it.
So the sentence has its actor, but it still lacks a bit of detail, needs some flavor. And that's where the adjective comes in.
Yes.
It describes the noun, tells us what kind of color, size, quality, a red car, a big house, a happy face.
And this is a foundational English structure that's really different from a lot of other languages. The placement is fixed.
Okay.
We almost always put the adjective either immediately before the noun, so red pen, which is the most common position, or after the state verb, the be verb.
For example, if I say the pen is red, the adjective red is still modifying the noun pen, but it comes after that linking verb is.
Exactly. That 2-position rule is something you really have to internalize early on.
So we know who or what the sentence is about, but where does the real action live? That's the verb. The source calls it, and I think rightly so, the heart of a sentence. It's what gives the sentence its energy.
It's pulse.
Right. Verbs show either action, like eat, run, write, or they show a state of being, of existence.
And this is where I find people often hit a wall, especially if their native language doesn't require this. Why is the be verb am, is, are so critically non-negotiable in English even when there's no visible action?
Because without it, you lack structural integrity. English just demands a structural link between the subject and its state. You can't just say, I teacher.
Right, it feels incomplete.
It's not a sentence, it's just 2 nouns slammed together. You have to say, I am a teacher. The verb am is what conveys that state of being a teacher. It's mandatory for correctness.
That's a great takeaway then. Failing to include that MESAR when you're describing a state of being is a really high-impact error we see all the time.
It is. And once you have the action running, singing, whatever, you often need to know how that action is performed, and that's the adverb's job.
So if adjectives describe the nouns,
adverbs describe the verbs.
Got it. They tell us the how, the when, or the where of the action. He runs fast. She sings beautifully.
And we've got a fantastic shortcut here. Most adverbs are formed by just adding cully to an adjective. Quick becomes quickly, quiet becomes quietly. It's a really strong pattern to rely on.
Except, of course, for the exceptions that seem to exist just to trip you up.
Of course.
Our source highlights 2 critical ones. The adjective good becomes the adverb well. So he plays well.
Right.
And the easiest one to remember, fast. Just stays fast no matter what. He runs fast.
Now we move from gathering the parts to the assembly manual. This is the absolute golden rule, the backbone of English, the SVO pattern.
Subject, verb, object.
Subject, then immediately the verb, then the object. This is maybe the largest mental hurdle for people whose native languages structure sentences differently, specifically that common SOV pattern.
Right.
Think of the phrase, I eat rice. In English, the actor, I, and the action, eat, they are just inseparable. They have to stick together.
So if you try to translate literally from an SOV language, you often get something like, I rice eat.
Yes.
And that structure immediately just breaks English grammar. You have to force the action, the verb, into that central position. It's an act of grammatical discipline, I eat rice.
Absolutely. And when you're building those SV sentences in the simple present tense, you run into subject-verb agreement, often called the S rule.
Oh, this is a big one.
It's crucial. If the subject is singular, he, she, it, or a specific name like Kamal, you must add an S or es to the verb, he runs. If the subject is plural, or if you're using I or you, the verb stays in its base form. They run, I run.
And that S rule also dictates how we form negative sentences. We use do not or does not.
And here's a common landmine. When you use doesn't for a singular subject, the S is immediately removed from the main verb.
Right, because the does is already doing the work.
Exactly. The does already carries the weight of that singularity. You have to say, he doesn't go. Never. He doesn't goes.
And once you master that simple SVO spine, you gain this immense structural flexibility. You can take a big sentence, the dog eats, and just expand it infinitely by layering on all the descriptive words we've talked about. The big dog eats fresh meat quickly under the tree. The original spine just holds up the whole house.
Now we introduce time, starting with the simplest timeline markers, the simple tenses, which are used for routine, habit, or, permanent facts.
The simple present takes care of those habits. I drink tea every morning, and those universal truths. The sun rises in the east.
Then comes simple past, or V2, for any action completed at a defined time in the past. Here is where the complexity starts up again, because English divides verbs into two groups for the past tense. Regular verbs just add ed, play becomes played.
But the real learning work is with the irregular verbs. You just can't guess these.
No.
You have to memorize them. Go becomes went, eat becomes eated, see becomes saw. If you try to use the ed rule for an irregular verb, you end up with something like, I eated rice, which is
just technically incorrect. Fortunately, the simple future is a nice break. It's the easiest tense to form. You just insert the word will before the base verb.
And the rule is that the verb following will never changes. No S, no ed.
Never. I will go tomorrow. Simple as that.
We mentioned that the simple tenses are like a snapshot, right?
Yeah.
A single photo of an action. But if you want to convey the action in progress, like a video clip, you need the continuous tense.
Right. The continuous structure is built on an inseparable pair. The be verb am is are, was, were, depending on the time, and the main verb ending in ing.
You can't have one without the other.
You can't. Eating doesn't work. It has to be I am eating.
And we can apply this structure to any time frame. Present continuous, I am eating now. Past continuous, she was cooking when I came. And future continuous, I will be traveling tomorrow. The core structure is always the same.
Now, moving to the perfect tenses, this is where the English timeline can get a little abstract.
It can.
These tenses signal a completed action, but the focus is more on the state of completion or the experience you've gained, rather than the specific time it happened. This requires the past participle, the V3 form: gone, eaten, seen.
V3 is often the trickiest one because it relates to time in a non-intuitive way. It's the form that always needs a helper verb, have, has, or had to connect a past action to the present.
Specifically, the present perfect so, have or has plus V3 is used for actions that were recently completed or for experiences up to this very moment. And this leads to a critical rule our source highlights.
Which is?
You cannot use present perfect if you specify a finished time.
That's the key distinction. If you use a time word like yesterday or last week or 3 hours ago, the action is finished. It's done. You have to use simple past.
Right, I went to Colombo yesterday.
But if you say, I have gone to Colombo, what you're saying is that the action is complete, but it's still relevant now, and you're crucially not mentioning a specific finished time.
Mention the time, and you shut the window on the present perfect. The simple past just takes over.
Finally, we have the structural powerhouse of the passive voice. In active voice, the focus is squarely on the subject doing the action. Kamal plays cricket.
Passive voice flips that focus. We use it when the person doing the action, Kamal in this case, isn't as important as the action itself, or the object receiving the action. This is really common in, say, news reporting or formal statements.
Or when the doer is totally unknown. If someone broke into your house, the critical information is the result.
Exactly.
My car was stolen. You're emphasizing the car and the action, not the thief you don't know.
And the passive structure relies heavily on that V3 form again. It's object plus the be verb, adjusted for the right tense, plus V3. So Kamal plays cricket because cricket is played by Kamal.
So to make all these complex sentences flow, we need connectors.
Yeah.
Starting with prepositions, which are sort of the GPS of language, they anchor ideas by showing place or time.
Our source gives us a wonderful quick memory trick for time prepositions. Use at for exact time, at 5 p.m., at night. Use on for days or dates, on Monday, on 25th December. And use in for longer periods, like months, years, or seasons. In 2024, in May.
That's a great little hierarchy.
If you stick to that, you'll avoid most prepositional errors with time.
Next, let's talk about inquiry, the structure for asking questions. We have the yes-no questions, and then the why questions: what, who, where, when, why, how.
And you have to remember that structural difference, standard sentences are SVO. A question needs an inversion.
An inversion.
Using a helping verb. The formula is wayward plus helping verb plus subject plus main verb. You absolutely must put that helping verb did is are before the subject.
So if you forget the inversion, you ask where you go, which just follows the normal SVO pattern. The correct structure demands that shift. Where do you go?
That small inversion is what flags the sentence as a question.
Okay, to wrap up, let's hit 4 high-impact grammatical landmines outlined in Chapter 10. These are mistakes that happen when you translate literally from other languages.
First one, stating age. Age is a state of being in English, not something you possess. So you have to say, I am 20 years old, not I have 20 years.
Right. Second, services. If you pay a professional to do something for you, you didn't do it yourself. You say, I got my car washed, not I washed my car, unless you were out there with a sponge yourself.
Exactly. Third, mistakes. You should always say, I made a mistake. Think of it as something you created. You don't do a mistake.
And lastly, 2 common prepositional errors.
Remember, you go home. You never go to home. And when you're talking about a topic, you discuss politics. You don't discuss about politics because the verb discuss already implies the idea of about. You just don't need the extra word.
We've covered some immense ground. We moved systematically from the basic building blocks, nouns, verbs, adjectives, to the assembly manual, that SVO, and then navigating the timeline and mastering nuance with passive voice and questions.
And I think the most important takeaway from the source material is that knowledge of grammar is only one side of the coin. Fluency isn't about rote memorization. It's about making these structures automatic. And the best way to practice, they insist, is to radically shift your internal dialogue and just start to think in English.
So what does this all mean for you? It means you have the entire framework right now. You don't need another word of vocabulary to start building correct sentences. Your challenge today is to test that framework. Spend just 10 minutes internally narrating your immediate world using only the structures we discussed.
Yeah, level 1 is just naming things and actions in SVO format. Level 2, add an adjective and an adverb. Use that big red car example we mentioned. The big red car runs fast.
Use the framework, not the translation. Stop translating and start structuring. You already have the tools to make sure your sentences are structurally sound and convey the right time and emphasis. The structure is now fundamentally yours to build on. Start building today.